Are we live?
Yep.
We're live. Are people aware that we had a failure the
I
last
don't
time?
think so. Sorry,
Okay.
everyone.
We are back live again. You can give me a thumbs up if we have some live people here. I'm Tyler Sylvie, education reporter at the Greeley-Tribune, and as I was preparing to tell you folks earlier, this is my first Facebook Live segment, and we'll be doing it with the District 6 Board of Education meeting today. Hello to people who are there. Feel free to use a handy emoticon and tell me what you think. The meeting tonight, 7 p.m., District 6 Administration Building. That's 1025 9th Avenue. You can tell I've been doing this a while. It's an important meeting for a couple reasons. Number one, it's the last meeting of the fiscal year, which ends June 30th. The next one starts July 1st. And so there will be a lot of stuff that they'll be voting on, namely spending for next year, as well as the budget for next year, 2016-2017 budget. But most importantly, and probably the thing that most people are interested in, is the board tonight will vote whether to go for a mill levy override. Now, a mill levy override is a property tax increase for homeowners within the school district boundaries, and the extra money raised would go toward the district's operating budget. Now, in this case, through numerous community meetings with residents, homeowners, business owners, a citizens advisory committee that's made up of those same parties, the district came to the conclusion it would put the money, if voters approve it, toward enhanced safety and security, personalized learning, and recruiting and retaining staff. This is probably a good time to say, if you have questions, feel free to type them in, because some of this stuff can be confusing. Now, the board isn't voting to approve this mill levy override tonight. They would be voting to approve putting it on the ballot. And so November 8th, I believe, is the date that you, the voter, would have a chance to say yes or no to a mill levy override. Now, let's go over some numbers on what the board will vote on tonight. The mill levy override in question is for $12 million. That's about 8% of the district's general operating budget. It's only for 7 years, and that's called the sunset provision, meaning voters would have the chance to scrap it in 7 years if they don't feel like it's working. That $12 million will cost homeowners with a $200,000 home, that's the average price in Greeley, about $164 a year. You can do the math from there. A $400,000 home would cost $308 per year. It affects businesses and oil and gas interest a little differently because they're assessed differently. The easiest thing to remember is it'll cost them more. We'll move on and get into some more numbers. District 6 is the largest district in the state that does not have a mill levy override. Many districts passed one in year 2 of the Great Recession to sort of stave off state funding cuts. District 6 last went for an MLO in 2009. It was the first and only time the district went for it. Voters rejected it with about 65% voting no. District officials are sort of optimistic this time around because they did some of the same polling this year that they did back in 2009, and in 2009 the polling told them that they wouldn't pass the MLO. This year, a little over 50% of people said they would approve an MLO. District 6 is also the only district in Weld County without a mill levy override. And if the $12 million override passed this year, it would represent about $540 more per student. And that money would also go on a per student basis to the district's 5 charter schools. The charters represent about a quarter of the district's student population, so a quarter of 12 million, 3 million would go to the district's charter schools. Still have people here? Yeah?
10.
Oh, 10 people. Use those handy emoticons. Tell me what you think. I don't do well with the mad ones. There's some other items that they'll talk about at tonight's board meeting. Again, 7 p.m. It's downtown, 1025 9th Avenue, District 6 Administration Building. It is a public meeting. It is free and open to the public, so feel free to attend. And there's actually a work session before the board meeting that starts at 4, so in an hour and a half. But during that work session, the board will discuss discipline and attendance. Basically, the district looks better or about the same as school districts like it around the state. district will also, the school board will also talk about schools that are kind of low on the accountability clock. There's about 8 schools that are on the state's accountability clock, meaning that they need to improve test scores, improve other data points in order to be in the clear there. As I said, this is the last meeting for the school board of the year, so they will also likely approve the budget. They'll have to vote on it. This year, 2016-17 budget will be $222 million. That's like almost a 2% increase over last year. And if you remember from our previous coverage, that budget will include a 3.75% increase for teachers and other employees in the district, as well as increased retirement fund contributions, increased health insurance costs. It'll also pay for Jefferson, which is now a high school, to transition to a high school and junior high in order to help more of those alternative students earlier in those students' careers. It'll go to purchase some computers to help with the district's blended learning initiative. And as I was saying, this is the end of the year, so they have some end of the year housekeeping. There's a section in every board meeting called the consent agenda, and usually you see 2 to 3 items on that agenda. This meeting is going to have how many? 65 items on the consent agenda, and those will range from utility bills that the board has to approve before we start paying them starting July 1st, all the way to legal fees and insurance, and all of those bills combine to about $20 million that the board will likely approve tonight. They obviously could not approve it as well, but usually the consent agenda goes without much of a hassle. Let's see, graduation requirements. This is state-sponsored changes to District 6 graduation requirements. The state made it incumbent upon all school districts in Colorado to change requirements, make them a little harder, a little more specific. So in Greeley, the district laid out a number of specific data points that can be used to determine if a student has reached that career-ready benchmark. So among those are certain scores on the AccuPlacer, ACT, Advanced Placement, and International Baccalaureate test. Industry certificate may work as well, and by 2023 the district hopes to accept some sort of capstone project at every high school for graduation as well. That's something the board will vote on again tonight. And one last thing, I've titled it here, Here Comes the Sun. Remember the Beatles song? That's what the district's hoping for with the board's approval of a 20-year power purchase agreement with Custom Solar to install and maintain solar panels on certain district buildings. Now, the board will have to vote on this, but if they do approve it, the cost over the 20-year agreement is expected to be $1.6 million. That said, the district is expected to save more than $500,000 in energy costs over the same period, so it would potentially be at least a monetary win for the district. And the way these power purchase agreements work is the district won't have to pay anything to install the solar. This third-party company, Custom Solar, installs it, and then the district pays for power through that company. So that is about all on probably the busiest meeting of the year that we'll have tonight. I'm glad that everybody tuned in, and I hope to see a lot of faces at the board meeting tonight. What?
We're good.
What happened?
You got a thumbs up.
Nice.